Governor Perry has journeyed from the small West Texas town of Paint Creek. He is the 47th governor. I did not know he was also the first Aggie to occupy the governor's mansion. Yeah, I did. I find that hard to believe. I looked, and it's true. He's the first and only governor. But then when I thought about it, how many Aggies from College Station aspire to go to Austin to live and work? But while at A&M, Governor Perry was a member of the Corps of Cadets, an organization that I know all of us here in Military City, USA respect. Aggies have a long history of service in the military, producing more officers than any other school outside the service academies. You may know that 20,000 Aggies served during World War II, more than the combined total of the Naval Academy and West Point. Governor Perry followed that tradition after graduating, serving in the United States Air Force, where he flew C-130s. Then for 2 decades, he served in public service. During his administration, the governor has focused on creating a Texas of unlimited opportunity and prosperity. He has led the effort to help Texas students graduate high school to be career-ready and college-ready. Under Governor Perry's leadership, Texas has consistently been ranked as one of America's best places for economic development and expansion. And Texas has been the top exporter for 9 consecutive years. Governor Perry was sworn in as governor December 21, 2000, the longest serving governor in the history of Texas. He's also a very proud Eagle Scout, and as a father of a 14-year-old son, that's quite an accomplishment that we're trying to push through. And we are very honored that the governor would be here today. So with that, let me introduce the governor. Please come up, and Joe Pags.
Pags on his way.
All right.
Come on, Pags.
That's
I know
you.
that
Yes, sir.
I always want on the right.
Okay, very good.
I do want to say, Joe, that
Yes, sir.
for all of y'all, please keep standing, because this is the first time I've seen a radio personality in a suit.
Here we go. Here it comes.
But it's your old TV background.
It is, absolutely.
So anyway,
TV
welcome, Joe.
background
Thank you.
coming out.
Good to see you, Governor.
And you, thank you. It's an honor to be here. And
You said you always sit on the right, but to the audience, you're on the left. But the Texas and the American flag are behind him, which is proper.
That's correct.
I get a weed behind me. It's an honor to sit here with you.
No matter where I'm sitting, nobody gets confused about where I am philosophically.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. We've talked, I think, over the past 7 years since I've been at WOAI, probably literally 20 times, maybe 25 times.
Yeah.
Funny story, when I first came here, I had a producer who just didn't get it. The guy was from Oklahoma. There's the problem. With Oklahoma and
For a lot of
right
reasons,
now,
Oklahoma's a problem
absolutely,
right now.
Absolutely. But your office called and there was something going on, and he said, you know, the governor's office is calling, like they want to come on and be on the radio. And I said, right, what time's he going to be on? He said, I told him, I said, Joe Pags is too busy. I said, what are you, on crack? He's the president of the state. Of course I want to talk to Governor Rick Perry. So that's the first time that we actually had a conversation. And now 7 years later, we have a very nice rapport. And I don't know how many of you really know the governor. I don't know him. I mean, every Sunday we do sit in these chairs and just talk about stuff. Maybe not. But he's a really, really nice man. He doesn't know I'm going to say any of this, but my dad passed away a couple of years ago in May. And I got a call from the governor who said, listen, I'm thinking about you. And that was really something to me. It wasn't about politics or some agenda. And I dealt with cancer last year and thankfully clean and we're healthy. But the governor called me and said, hey, I heard you're having some struggles. He's just a really nice guy. And that he really kicks ass as a governor too. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Really. I've often asked you when I've had you on my shows, why the president doesn't jump on Air Force One, come to Austin, hang out with you for a couple of weeks and see how it's done. I mean, in Texas, we're doing that much better than any other state, all the other states combined as far as job building, job creation. When it comes to what's happening in Washington, which I'm still stunned that you wanted any part of that, when it comes to what's happening in Washington, literally, if we did in Washington what we do in Texas, it'd be a different picture, wouldn't it?
It would be. It would be a substantially different picture. But to their credit, and you don't hear me say this very often, but to their credit, just today, Vice President Biden and it's Arnie Duncan, right, Gene, have invited the Chancellor of the University of Texas to come to the White House and share with them what they're doing over at UT. And, you know, we could say they're doing the same thing at A&M and Debbie over at Texas Tech, as well as Charlie over at the Texas State University System, on transparency and how to keep the cost of education down. Now, you know, talking about it and doing it are two different things, but at least I'm going to give them credit for opening up to what we're doing here in the state of Texas on the higher ed side. Now, obviously, when it comes to job creation, you can't fund higher ed, you can't fund public ed, you can't fund transportation infrastructure, you can't fund all the things that, you know, whether it's public safety, the things that we want in our communities, unless you first have an environment where men and women who are in the job creating business feel comfortable that they can risk their capital and have a chance to have a return on their investment. If you don't get that right first, and if you don't have the predictability of taxes and stability in the regulatory environment, if you don't feel that you're going to be able to risk capital and you know, have to go spend way too much time at the courthouse because they've allowed frivolous lawsuits to go forward, then you're not going to go risk that capital, and then you're going to look a lot like California.
We don't want to look like California, no.
So, you know, and that's just a fact. That is an indisputable fact that California is incredibly beautiful. I mean, they have so much to offer, and to have put that state in the position that it is in today, where people are leaving there in pursuit of the American dream, is a great indictment of what government gone awry is all about. And as a matter of fact, I will be leaving one day later in the week, going to California, talking to businesses about relocating to the state of Texas. I mean, somebody said, why do you do that so often? I said, well, you fish where the fish are. And there are a lot of fish in California.
You've done that before. California is not happy to see your plane land.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, there's overregulation. I believe just this morning I saw there's a new law somebody's proposing in California. If you don't seatbelt your dog in the car, $1,000 fine.
Yeah.
You have to literally seatbelt your pet in the car. In San Francisco, they banned McDonald's from selling Happy Meals with a toy in it because that's too much of an appeal to kids, because kids shouldn't be eating McDonald's. It's overregulated. Is that one of the biggest reasons why Texas is so successful, that the government has said, I have to get out of this and let people succeed or fail on their own?
Well, I think there's a balance that people want to know that they can drive down highways, and that not only expeditiously but safely. They want to know that they are going to live in a safe community. They want to know that they're going to be able to have the quality of life issues. And I want to take just a second when I talk about quality of life and share with you a story from 2001. I'd been the governor for maybe 6 months, and we got notified that Boeing Corporation, and they're one of the sponsors here today, and thank you for that, for being here. But Boeing was going to move their corporate headquarters out of the Pacific Northwest to either Chicago or Dallas-Fort Worth. Well, we were ecstatic. The idea that it's only 165 jobs. I mean, it wasn't, 3,600 jobs like we announced earlier in the year of Apple coming into Central Texas. This was 165 jobs, but still, you go after those. And the idea that a major international business entity like Boeing would leave Seattle area and come to Dallas-Fort Worth. What a great coup, what a wonderful story. And at that particular point in time, we didn't have an enterprise fund, we didn't have the economic development tools we do today. And we went up and and did as much as we could, and frankly, there wasn't a whole lot we could do. The Dallas-Fort Worth people, they were not as adept at economic development as they are today. And I might just add in passing, nobody in this state does it better than San Antonio and the surrounding area. Nobody. But Dallas in that Fort Worth area, and they worked hard and they made the offers and what have you. Long story short, they picked Chicago. And so we came back in 2002 and started working towards the 2003 legislative session. And Governor Dewhurst, and I think Tom Craddock was the new Republican speaker then, and we passed some very, very substantial and long-reaching, if you will, programs like the Texas Enterprise Fund, which San Antonio has been, and the area has been recipients of, and companies have been recipients of. But through a third party that was knowledgeable, we heard that one of the important reasons, Hope, that they did not choose Dallas-Fort Worth because the spouses of the decision makers on that board didn't feel that there were the cultural arts as expansive as what they would have been comfortable with. I'm not going to argue the fact, I'll let somebody else make the decision whether that was true or not in 2001, but here's what I want you to keep in mind. Fast forward a decade to 2011. In a short 10-year period of time, Fort Worth, Texas built a new Museum of Modern Art. The Basses built a symphony hall. It's one of the finest in the world. Dallas is completing the third performing arts facility, the Meyerson, the AT&T, and now the Perot. The Nasher Sculpture Gardens are in Dallas, Texas now, and the American Film Institute relocated out of California to Dallas. Austin, Texas, poor little old Austin University government town, right? They built a new Museum of Modern Art in the Blanton. They have the Long Center of Performing Arts. San Antonio, Texas today, thanks to Brother Bug, if he's in here, Bruce Bug, and working on a performing arts center for San Antonio, Texas, and there are more theater tickets for sale tonight in Houston, Texas than any other city in America outside of New York City. That's happened in a decade. And it's happened in a decade, listen up here, Kentucky. It's happened in a decade because men and women in Austin, Texas understood something. They understood if you don't overtax, if you don't overregulate, if you don't overlitigate, if you will make those be balanced and predictable, people will risk their capital and when they know they have a chance to have a return on the investment. And that's exactly how those cultural facilities were built, not by government. It was built by the private sector because we've allowed people to keep more of what they work for. They've made the right decisions, and government got out of the way. And that is the clear model. It doesn't make any difference which state you're in. If you have men and women who understand that government needs to do a few things and do those few things really well. I didn't mean to totally
we're done,
filibuster.
Governor. We're actually finished.
I'm done now.
Have a great. No, you did great.
But that's the story of Texas in the 2000s. Is that we've created this great environment here because we didn't overtax, overregulate, and overlitigate.
And the governor no longer calls the board of directors. He calls and asks for their spouses. Hi, can I talk to your wife, please, Governor Perry? Great job, obviously. You've been the longest sitting governor that Texas has ever had. Does that ever weigh on you? Do you ever think about that? Do you love it? Do you think that doesn't really matter? We're just doing the right things?
Well, I don't think it matters.
Kind of nice to know that, hey, I'm the guy, you know.
Well, here's what's important. What are you getting done? I mean, right. If you've been there for 10 years and you haven't gotten anything done, then maybe you ought to go do something else. And generally speaking, that's the reason we have elections. Yeah.
Well, if you weren't getting it done, you wouldn't still be the governor, right?
And I think there is some power in that statement. But the fact is, I get up every morning and I thank God for, number one, living in Texas. I thank God that I get to participate with the greatest people in the world. I mean, listen, Texas isn't successful today because myself and David Dewhurst and Joe Strauss. It's great because we understand our role to free those of you in the private sector to feel comfortable you can risk your capital. That's what government should be all about. Yep, we're going to come to Austin, we're going to debate about, are we going to spend this much money in this particular area? But at the end of the day, we're doing it right in this state. There is a reason that we've led the nation in the jobs creation over the course of the last decade. Well, it's true. The president ought to get up every day and go, thank God for Texas. My job creation numbers would really be in the toilet if it wasn't for Texas.
It's true.
It's true.
We have to talk very quickly about the run for president. You do live in the greatest state, and you're the governor of the greatest state. We talked over and over, and you said, I've got the greatest job, and I want another job. But there were people saying, hey, look what you've done in Texas. Wouldn't that be great if we could take those principles, at least, to the nation? Happy you did it? Unhappy you did it?
Oh,
satisfied that you did it?
I'm happy I did it. I wasn't happy the way it turned out.
I didn't notice. How did it turn out?
I tell you, I give you two really great insights.
Okay.
If you decide to run for the presidency of the United States, number one, get in early.
Right.
Don't get in at the last minute. And don't have a major surgery on your back before you start.
Right. And you were the front runner when you got in. You came in.
Hey, let me tell you, and it was the 3 most exhilarating hours of my life. And it was awesome. Yeah. Well, I tell people, I said, you want to become the target and the focus of a lot of folks, be the front runner.
Yeah.
And, I'll kind of leave it at that we weren't prepared for that onslaught.
Do you wish the debate format was this? Because you in this format are great.
Yeah.
And in that format, you had 8 other people you were trying to get in edgewise. And
no, I had 8 other people that I was playing catch with, and they were chunking.
Right.
To start out, if you'll recall, California in the first 3 debates, and it was, we got to go knock this guy down. And, to their credit, I will say they did a good job of it.
Well, going forward as the governor here, I know last night I got a piece of information, and I think this has hit the wires today. We had budget issues here. We had budget issues in the state of Texas, and you did what you had to do as per the Constitution. Some people are unhappy about the cuts to education and some other things. But again, you had to tighten the belt. Last night you came out with a piece of information. I know that, again, it went, I think, statewide today, that you sent out a letter to all of the offices in the state. What did the letter say? Let people here know.
It basically is asking we're going through what's called legislative LARs, their request for their appropriations, legislative appropriation request. And this is about the time of the year that they start and they go forward with it. And I just wanted to put everybody on notice that we want to take a look at our budgets, just like you do in your business. I can promise you, USAA is going through, Admiral, you look at your budget and you prioritize what's important. You look at your money flowing in. The great news for the state of Texas is that we have seen increased revenues coming into the state of Texas. But I want those agencies to basically freeze their budgets at the 2012, 2013 levels. And that's the fiscal, that's the fiscal year that we're in right now. And